Welcome to Tech Tuesday. Today we are going to be exploring some tools that you can use for creating conditions for a flipped classroom. Just a reminder, on the document that you signed in on, there's a link to a live chat if you'd like to ask us questions. And you're also welcome to use the hashtag DPChats on Twitter and Yammer. We'll just give you one moment to get signed in and we'll get started. Today we will explore the elements of a flipped classroom using Educreations. Educreation is an app on the school iPads. It is also a web-based program. The model that we are going to explore is taking a look at your typical lecture or content delivery and reversing that with your homework elements that you would have typically have done. So we take those two pieces and flip them. So one example would be to use short videos to deliver your lectures and contents, which would be viewed by the students either prior to class or at home. And while in class time then, their time is devoted more to collaborative projects, exercises, discussions. As we look at the Catholic expectations, we can make some clear connections to a self-directed, responsible lifelong learner and a responsible citizen. Our lifelong learners really demonstrate the flexibility and adaptability, and our responsible citizens accept responsibility and accountability for one's own actions while respecting the environment and using resources wisely. So I'm just going to share with you a little video about how you can rethink your space in a flipped classroom.
The flipped class requires us to fundamentally rethink two important aspects of education: space and time. So let's talk a little bit about space. If you think about the way classrooms have been set up traditionally, they had a chalkboard in the front of the classroom. Then those chalkboards became whiteboards, and then those whiteboards became overhead projectors, which then turned into LCD projectors that we hung on the ceiling. But really the classroom in all of those situations is a presentation station. It's not a center of learning. When we rethink the space of the classroom, we're reorienting how the classroom is used, where the front of the classroom is or where the front of the classroom isn't. All you have to really do is rethink where you're going to put tables and chairs. But then that begs a very interesting question. Now, what do you do with the extra time you're going to have in a flipped classroom with the kids? The short answer is we don't know what the best use of your face-to-face class time is, but what we want to encourage you to do is to think about ways you can get your students engaged in some of the higher order thinking, the higher tiers of Bloom's taxonomy, the analysis and application and evaluation and creation components, all within the context of the content that they've already learned before they come to class in better ways with an expert in the room, a content area expert and a learning expert, and that expert is you. This probably sounds familiar. Project-based learning, PBL, universal design for learning, inquiry learning. These learning pedagogies fit greatly in a flipped learning environment. In short, a flipped classroom is a way for teachers to transition into the role of facilitator, becoming that guide on the side. We really see the flipped classroom as a transitional tool for educators to move away from being the center of attention in the classroom and move that attention onto students and onto the learning that's happening in those classrooms.
So as we take a look at some of those different elements, we're going to examine how you can use Educreations to perhaps fulfill one of those elements. If you would like to screencast some instructions for your students or a particular lesson or content, this is one particular app. There's so many different elements that you can incorporate into a flipped classroom. And we'll just start by giving you a quick overview of the tool. So as we come into the Educreations app, And again, this is an iOS app on the iPads, but it is also a web-based program. So there are a few differences in what it might look like in the layout, but essentially you can perform the same tasks. So on both the iPad and on the web-based program, you're going to come in when you log into your account to your dashboard where your stored lessons or videos will be. You'll notice in the top left-hand corner, you have a plus sign, and that is going to be where you create your new lesson. And it will open automatically into this blank whiteboard template. And you'll notice that you have a variety of options across the top here. So you have a record feature, and by using the record feature, it will record the audio and any annotations that you write or add onto the whiteboard space. You can pause that and continue. So if you are building lessons or recording instructions, you can go ahead and pause at different moments. You'll also notice here that you have a drawing tool, a pen tool, and an eraser tool. With the pen tool, you just have to tap the pen and tap the color, and then you can write or annotate onto that space. If you're looking to change up the colors, you just push and hold on those, and you will get a variety of options, and you can change those colors. The eraser tool allows you simply to use your finger to erase as you like, but if you push and hold on that tool, you'll notice that you have the option to clear the page as well. Over here on the right-hand side, you'll notice here there's a little icon that looks like paper. By choosing that, you get a variety of options for your background or your wallpaper. So depending on the type of tutorial or lesson or instructions you're recording for your students, one of those may be a better fit than the other. You'll also notice right beside it, you have a duplicate option. So you can duplicate an entire page or slide or with or without the annotations on top, in case you wanted to add to it or change things. You'll also notice right below there is a plus button. And here you're going to get a variety of options. So the first one is text. So again, you can tap anywhere on the space and use the keyboard. And again, with the iPads, you have built in the speech-to-text feature. So you can use that simply by selecting this microphone option here at the bottom, and as long as that's turned on, that feature will work for you in your settings. And you also have the option here for uploading a photo from your camera roll or taking a picture directly from the iPad. So depending on what it is that you're going to be doing a tutorial or lesson for your students on, if it's perhaps something that you've used manipulatives or something you've built, or you're doing a demo of something, you may choose to use the camera feature and record it that way. But you also can bring in images. So again, depending what you're doing, you may have a particular image or diagram, or you may have a worksheet that you've pulled off the internet as an image as well. So I'm just going to come into my camera roll here and pull up this particular image. And what you'll notice is it gives you some options at the bottom. So depending how you save that image, you may need to rotate it. You can duplicate it. So perhaps it's an image of a manipulative, perhaps a base 10 block or something like that. And again, you can adjust the size and width with these buttons. And then the last one is the lock in place button. So now that becomes a background to this page. So we can write and annotate over top, but the background won't move around on us. So perhaps I'm doing a little tutorial with the students. It could be a review or it could be introducing new content. And maybe with a particular image like this, you might be building vocabulary with the students. And again, I can be recording these instructions here by hitting the record button. So now it's going to record my audio and my annotations. So you might be pointing out the different vocabulary to the students and helping explain what that means and labeling things and annotating on top. You'll also notice in the bottom right hand corner that I can actually go to a new slide, and my audio is still recording and my new screen here on the second slide, I can go ahead and add more images or content. You'll also notice that as I add something, it pauses the recording. So just as we add in something. There we go. And again, I can continue recording now that I have that in place. And perhaps I've brought in a worksheet to go with the new content I've just given them. And I might be kind of showing them what I want them to do here. Again, annotating. I might be reminding of some of that content. And kind of working through the steps of the different questions here and explaining different things to the students. So again, it's just an opportunity to provide some of that content and delivery before the students are face-to-face with us to be able to enhance that experience a little deeper. It allows the students to kind of pause, rewatch, record. So now that I've created this, the question is, how do we deliver that to the students? And there's many different ways depending on the platforms that you use, but in Explain Everything, you'll notice the export button is here in the top left. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. It's going to give me two options, to save as a draft or as a finished video. If you're working in the free Educreations, you get one draft, which means you might record part of the video and want to come back and add to it later. The other option is to save as a finished video, and you can save as many finished videos as you like, up to 50 megabytes in that free Educreations. So you'll go ahead and label it, you can add descriptions, and you can keep it private, or you can share it to the Educreations community, and then go ahead and hit save. And it's going to take that right out to your dashboard here. So you notice my previous lessons are all here. The great thing about building it on the iPad is that it automatically saves it into your account. So now I can actually come into the Internet Explorer window here. And I'm just going to come back out to my dashboard of my account that I've logged into. So again, you log in the same way on the iPad as you do at the website, educreations.com. And you'll see that automatically that lesson already is there. So what I can do is I can hit the select button and I can choose a particular lesson. And what I can go in is assign it to a class. And I'll show you how to set that class up in a moment. But what we can do is assign it right to the class. So now as the students log in, that lesson is there waiting for them to watch that lesson. I can go ahead and give them some instructions as a follow-up, and that could be something, a discussion forum in a collaborative space, or perhaps using an Excel survey or a Google form to have the students fill out some information or questions about the content they just watched. So as I come into Educreations the first time, and I want to set up that account, what you will do is you'll notice that you can set up classes. So when I come to new class, it's going to ask me to name that class, choose a subject area if I want, choose a grade level if I want, and a description here if I want. And what I can do is add students, and I can add lessons to that. So what you'll notice here is there's a class code that comes up. And what you'll do is either you will do it or you'll send your students to do it, and they will also come to educreations.com. And when you first come to this website, it's going to ask you, are you joining as a teacher or as a student? And they will say they're joining as a student. Now that you've created your account and you have this class code here, you will give them that class code and they will enter it. It will ask them to use to enter in their name and possibly their email. I do not have my students put their emails in just to keep their information private and safe. And for their names, I just have them use either their first name or they log in as first name student, last name 1, first name student, last name 2, etc. And once they do that, it's going to ask them to generate not an email, sorry, it's going to ask them to generate a password. So if your students are young, it might be an idea to kind of pair those up or generate those for your students and document them. The older students usually are pretty good about remembering that. So once you have classes set up and you assign kind of videos to them, once they log in with their password after they've created that account, they'll be able to just view that video, which is an easy way for them to see it without you having to really move it or upload it anywhere. The other options when you're inside your videos is you'll notice down at the bottom here, you'll notice down at the bottom here, it will give you your students and it'll tell you who has viewed it. So by keeping it in the Educreations platform, you also have an idea of which students came in and viewed that. The other option here is you'll notice there's a share setting. And if you are using a particular site or D12, you can take this embed code and you can just embed your videos directly into there. And that's the basis of Educreations. Okay. So a few tips there how you can get started with that program. But just as a reminder, Educreations is one screencasting tool. There's many out there. Of course, we've covered Explain Everything in another tutorial, so you can always rewatch that video and look at how you could use that. Smart Recorder and Smart Notebook, which we all have access to. You could simply use a video camera or a tablet to record yourself or to zone in on just something you're writing on. You can find pre-made tutorials on YouTube and prompt the students by having them watch that. If you have QuickTime, you can use the screen capture feature. And again, using a video is just one element of what you could use in a flipped classroom. So as we go through the month, we'll be highlighting all different aspects that you could incorporate into there. Some considerations that come up when we're considering flipping is access, kind of the idea of how do we watch the videos, some safeguards we could put in place, the idea of perfection and taking small steps. So with access, we need to know if our students have access at home. So we really do have to build those relationships and get to know not only do they have Wi-Fi, but do they have devices to access this. Some ways to get around that is you could potentially save the video onto a flash drive for the few students that maybe don't have access. You could also provide some built-in time at the start of class while students are coming in and getting activities going. If there's a few students that haven't seen the video, they could take that time at the beginning of class to review it. We also are talking about how we watch a video. So we have to actually kind of scaffold for students. How do you watch an educational video versus just watching a video for leisure? We need to specifically teach students how to interact with the content in that video that will cause them to think and reflect. So sometimes that might be embedding a question at the end or a quick kind of activity. So they might do, you might embed a question right in your video and the students will kind of answer that question or do whatever you've asked them and then bring that into class like an entrance ticket to begin, and that would become your minds-on activity. You also could embed things like an Excel survey questionnaire or a Google Form questionnaire that you would then be able to see the content before the students arrive back at school to kind of know which students have engaged in that video. We're also talking about putting safeguards in place. So again, you can use those questions to ensure that the students have a to-do task attached to that video. And also keeping in mind that you want to keep your video short. So as an average, we think about a minute per grade level. So if we're teaching a grade 6 class, we want to do no more than a 6-minute video with an activity or a task then attached to it. If you need to cover more content, you could do multiple videos, but we definitely want to keep them short. Also think about the idea of perfection. We don't want to wait for our videos to be perfect, and they don't need to have green screens and fancy things. Although as you get more efficient at making your videos, you might find that you have the ability to get more creative as you become more comfortable. But definitely don't wait for perfection or you'll never have videos to post to your students. And start with small steps. The idea of flipping a classroom is very scalable. So you can flip one lesson or you can flip parts of a unit. You don't have to flip every part of your day or content. My suggestion would be to find something that kids really struggle with and flip that lesson first. So for example, if you're perhaps doing a lesson with common denominators and fractions, and you notice that your students really struggle with that concept, that would be a great lesson to record so that your students could rewatch and rewind that video as often as they need. So again, just leaving you with the idea of the differences between a traditional classroom and a flipped classroom. And when we're talking flipped classroom, we're talking about instructors recording or finding recordings of content. We're looking at students watching or listening to content before they come in, so whether that's a video or a podcast. We're also looking at how class time is changing. So more class time is devoted to applying learning activity and higher order thinking skills. And students receive more support from their instructor and peers as needed as they go through the lesson activities in class.
Okay, so hopefully you were able to pick up some tips today for helping you get started using screencasting and the ideas around flipping your classroom. Thanks for joining us today. If you have a chance on that first sign-in page, there's an exit ticket link that will help us gear our sessions. Thanks very much. Have a great day.